So, following the death of Grant DePatie, we actually made a pretty profound moral decision as a society. And what we decided to do was to ban working alone in retail and institute pay at the pump. And we decided to do that because we wanted an environment where people who had to work alone late didn't have to work in fear. Because, of course, in Canada we have a value that we look out for each other. And that we recognize that people have to do these jobs for all of us to enjoy the lifestyles that we have. But it's kind of more than that, because in a democracy we also have a responsibility to each other. And it was that responsibility, that was the reason why we created the regulation to ban working alone. Of course, it is just a regulation, but a regulation like this, it's really a moral statement of what we think that our Canadian society should look like, what type of world we want to live in. So, I mean, for example, as a society, we have minimum wage regulations that apply to convenience stores. And we have a minimum wage because we believe that if a person has a job, that they shouldn't have to live in poverty. Equally, we have regulations against convenience stores selling cigarettes to children. And these regulations are also an expression about the values that we have in society. And we also have regulations against forcing retail workers to work alone late at night, because we want to live in a community where people are able to go to work without being afraid. So, I mean, businesses should be able to compete, and they should be able to make a profit, but it always has to be within what's right and what's good for everyone together. I mean, Mac's convenience stores, they're doing quite well. They've opened up over 5,800 stores, and in this quarter they have over $5.6 billion of revenue. So at the end of the day, they're going to continue to make money, good money, regardless if we have a working alone regulation or if we don't have a working alone regulation. Because with or without this regulation, people are still going to buy cigarettes, they're still going to buy lottery tickets, they're still going to buy gasoline, and businesses will still have an opportunity to make money from each of these purchases. So really, that's not the issue. What this is really about is fairness. And that it's only fair that workers who've helped their businesses grow and become successful should actually be able to go to work without fear. Because late-night retail workers are there for us, and they provide a service to society. So it's only fair that we should be there for them, because we want our family and neighbors to feel safe at work. And if you run a business that could only be profitable at the expense of the safety of those who helped you build your business, then in Canada we don't think that's a viable business model. If you had a business that could only be profitable if you could only sell cigarettes to children, then you don't have a viable business model. Or if you had a business that could be profitable if you could pay people $2 less than minimum wage, that's not a viable business model. So if your business model doesn't allow you to make a profit between 11 p.m. and 6 p.m. while also keeping people safe, then the solution isn't to reintroduce working alone, it's to change what your business model is. Because when the WCB investigated the late-night retail issue, they found that almost virtually none of the employers were following the existing regulation. Virtually none. I'd suggest that the employers really don't have any moral authority to be talking about what's needed to keep workers safe when they aren't following the existing regulations. And I don't have a lot of confidence that every employer, or even half of them, would comply with this new, more complex option when they weren't complying with the original working alone regulations. So a few years ago, I actually spoke at these public hearings as a late-night retail worker when I worked at a private liquor store in Prince George. Yeah, I told you the story about cows. That's true.
That was a great story.
Okay. So, but then I also told you about my experience with shoplifters. And that shoplifters would watch us from outside of the store, and they'd see where we were in the store, and they would wait until somebody had gone to the back room before they came in to steal something. So I can certainly speak from first-hand experience that having additional people working is a deterrent. I also mentioned at the time that at the liquor store we worked at, liquor store workers in Prince George had a system that when one of our stores was robbed, we had a phone tree, and we would call through each of the other liquor stores to tell them that there was somebody robbing liquor stores that night. So we had a system where we looked out for each other. And while I don't work there anymore, I think that still we as a society should be out there to look after them too, to make sure that they aren't forced to work alone. So following the death of Grant Tepeti, I was really inspired by the choice that we decided to make as a society, that we did something about it, that we recognized that we had a responsibility to each other, and I hope that we don't walk away from that responsibility. Thank you.
Thanks very much.